last year. Now, Florida is the recipient of this first ever state timber block grant from the USDA, as the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and Florida Forest Service have been integral in negotiating the agreement and will help administer the USDA grant alongside the Florida Division of Emergency Management. In a release, Freed said the signing of this agreement has been long awaited and is a positive step forward for Florida's timber producers. She said with this agreement signed, the Florida Forest Service will be working with timber producers to get checks in hand and trees in the ground and help Florida's farmers repair and rebuild irrigation infrastructure. Under the agreement, the Florida Forest Service will be providing technical assistance to individual landowners in the affected area. Forest Service personnel will be working with timber producers to verify their loss and help landowners with documentation of that loss. Timber producers may expect to receive funding as soon as this fall, with funding providing relief for both timber producers and farmers whose irrigation infrastructure was damaged by the hurricane. More details are on our website, southeastagnet.com.
Maintaining your crops is as important now as it's ever been. Howler, a revolutionary fungicide from AgBiome, can help. It provides long-lasting protection from a broad spectrum of foliar and soil diseases that affect fruits, vegetables, and other specialty crops. Howler is OMRI listed, has multiple modes of action, and has minimal pre-harvest and re-entry intervals. It's flexible, easy to use, and is available right now. Call 855-946-9537 or visit agbiome.com/howler to learn more.
Randall Wiseman, Southeast AgNet.
WOCA, putting the local back into radio.
Today, intervals of clouds and sunshine with a shower or thunderstorm around for the afternoon, high 89 to 93. A shower or thunderstorm is possible during the evening. Otherwise, it will be a partly cloudy night tonight with a low 72 to 76. For tomorrow, mix of clouds, a shower or a thunderstorm around for the afternoon, high 83 to 87. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Kevin Snyder.
WOCA. Ocala.
Listening to AM Ocala Live right here. WOCA, the source, WOCA Ocala, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. As we're broadcasting to you live from the currently closed Paddock Mall until further notice for safety. We'll let you know when that opens up. We are streaming live, YouTube Live, WOCA, the source radio, as we are making our way now 5 minutes past the top of the 8 o'clock hour. As on the phone we have from Life South Community Blood Centers, my friend Galen. Good morning, partner. How you doing today?
Hey, what's up, Adam? How are you?
Hanging in there, my friend. It's one of those goofy days that doing radio, as when there's so much going on within society and outside there. It's hard to navigate to try to do something that we do. With the whole premise of our show is to get people the opportunity to have a little bit of an optimistic morning and wake up feeling like, all right, let's get the day started by keeping a little bit informed and a little bit entertained. At the same time, though, we know that there's a lot going on. There has been a lot going on through the weekend. And before we get into that, I just want to say good morning, my friend, and hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, hey, thank you. I did. It was pretty quiet at my house. I'm sure it was quiet at the majority of the world's house, the vast majority. This isn't a new issue, right? This is an issue that's been plaguing us since we founded the country. And by the way, I've seen a lot of things come out that the United States is the worst place in the world for racism. It's not even close to being in the top 10 of the countries I've been in. So, you go to a place like Bahrain or even Japan or China, talking about racism, it's next level there. So, I just, most people who say that have never been out of the country and their worldview is very limited.
Sure.
It's just crazy times, right?
Right.
But this isn't anything different than what happened 10 years ago, or
of course,
the Rodney King riots. Or,
of course.
This is an ongoing issue, and it's always, I read the article in Jacksonville about the officer's neck got slashed, and it started very peaceful, and then about 200 people hung around, and those 200 people turned it into violence. But I also think that the sheriff of Jacksonville got it right. He said, "Well, we're going to defend our officers. We're going to defend the property that we're sworn to protect." So I respect that as well.
Everything coming through our community with how law enforcement was almost side by side with the idea of, obviously, from our police chief, Greg Graham, as mentioned, as I did this morning with the Ocala Star-Banner, and Mr. Sheriff Billy Woods, is kind of saying, like, hey, as long as you guys do it the right way, we completely understand the idea for the voices to be heard, as long as it is within reason to the idea of the gathering, and that they weren't going to stop that, and that's important in its own self, and I think if that's one thing to discuss a little bit, it was maybe just how well our community was able to, I guess, do what they wanted to do with that, and in respect to our law enforcement, I guess.
Yeah, and Greg Graham and Billy Woods have both grown up in this town. They've been here their whole lives.
Right.
I know them both, and they're good people. And they care about the community. This is their home.
That's right.
And I'm sure that's how most police chiefs and people feel. And then you get idiots try to take over the Paddock Mall and burn it down. Setting clothes on fire. Again, that's the very, very small minority, and their voice is so loud that it actually works against what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And it's probably kids who are young and fairly stupid and trying to do something to make us flash. Somebody just needs to get a hold of them. It's amazing. We haven't been able to go to church in weeks, but yet we're allowed to gather and protest and set things on fire. To me, it's just a symbol of how out of whack our priorities have come.
Yeah. Now,
you see thousands and thousands of people on the streets when you're not even supposed to be out on the street.
Gotcha. As you make that point, partner, I think that's what I'm getting at a little bit too. It's almost it's basically ridiculous where we're at in lieu of what we've been talking about for getting things back opened. COVID-19. Here we are, you bring that up a little bit to the idea that I feel, here we are. It's like, yet we're still having restaurants 50% capacity. We still have limited capacity with going to the gym and trying to stress relieve with a workout. We're negating a lot of things for small business within our own local economy and stuff, and then nationally, it's somewhat ironic on not a funny way, but it's one of those things, again, where I said get rid of this baby blanket bubble wrap liability crap, because we know that's what it is. That's the whole reason why Disney came out and said, hey, we're going to open up July 11th, but you got to wear a mask in 90-degree UV index of over 100 type weather, which is just ridiculous. And I think this is just proof again that when there's a side conversation, when there's some other distraction, you look back and you realize where logic was left behind with the other issue. Or basically, it points out that logic was left out on the other issue. So here we are. We're talking about everything that's transpired from the middle to the end of last week through the weekend, obviously, with everything going on from Minneapolis. And then you back up and you go, oh, yeah, weren't we just getting through a pandemic? But yet, like you said, we got, gatherings of that, of people together to get their voices heard. But it's also like, well, then where are we at with this COVID-19 crap already? Let's move on from this and let's go already.
Well, it really was a perfect storm for a riot. People were already protesting, being locked down and the extended hand of the government.
Yeah.
And the police are an extension of the government, right? I mean, granted, this stuff.
Right.
I still don't know why what they're waiting on for charging the other three officers. the district attorney coming out and saying, oh, there's evidence that's not been presented on the table. Okay. You're losing the court of public opinion every single day. You don't do that. And it took rioting in the streets for them to arrest the police officer. And I think that's one of the issues.
Right.
Is, there's a lot of these examples. But getting back to your point, you have all these people who have been confined into their homes, doing nothing but watching TV, fueling that fire on social media, just pouring gas on the fire. President tweets stupid things, fuels the fire, and now they're finding a place to let that go. And now you're mixing in people like Antifa and all these other groups who want this kind of anarchy. All this is a part of it.
Yeah.
So I will say, I mean, there's been some places. I know the protest downtown was very calm and very orderly. And, saw some images from that. Texted a couple of people who were there, and they were like, "Yeah, man, we're not there to destroy anything. We're here to build relationships." I'm like, "That's exactly what you need." But we also had strong leadership there, and the group wasn't massive.
Right.
It's easy to control, a few hundred people. It's impossible to control a few thousand.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And where that comes is, like I said, it's now a new day to a new week to a new month, my friend. And here we are, June now. We're almost about halfway through this year of 2020, and it's incredible just how much has transpired just in the few months. When I look back at taking on the show here back in January, that feels, my friend, like lifetimes ago. When you say January 2020, I'm thinking, oh wait, 2-3 years ago is how it feels with just everything that's gone on. And I was going to ask you, at what point does this make us stronger as a whole, as a country? At what point, from pandemic to all of this and the protesting, do we start to see maybe a gain in, a strength and optimism? At what point do we start moving in a direction that says, yeah, okay, of all the commercials from Lexus and everything else telling me we're going to get through this, when do we actually start to? When do we actually start to come together? And is that possible?
No. No, and I'll tell you why. It's because of the media doesn't want us to be together.
I know. It feels
right? So,
it feels so oppressive that way.
That's a fact. If you don't watch anything from this weekend, if you listen to Killer Mike from Atlanta, and his speech that he just gave impromptu, it encapsulated the entire problem. Right. It talked about how he's hurt, he's frustrated, and he lives in a town that they're almost evenly split between blacks and whites, and they've always coexisted for the most part. Since before segregation stopped, they just had their two worlds, and then they blended together. And you go through Atlanta, and I think it's the least racist place that I go to, that I maybe ever have been to, because schools are very mixed race, and they grow up together and they're friends, and I think that's how you heal this. Yeah. But racism is a learned behavior, right? That is an absolute fact.
Yeah.
You don't come out of the womb hating somebody because of the color of their skin. That racism and bigotry is a learned behavior, and it's impossible to unlearn something. So, I've always felt that the next generation is more coexisting than the previous one, and I'm constantly disappointed by that. I grew up in an area where, I had black friends, but there was still a separation. That separation with my children is gone, right?
Right.
But I'm hoping it remains gone. So, because that's the only way to really cure it, is these kids are never taught that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you see kids at the riot, You see like 8, 9, 10, and 11-year-olds at the riot. I guess more riots or protests at that point. And I kind of understand it, but I would struggle to bring my child to that. It's not something I would want my child to see or to learn or to definitely learn. And so that's something I struggle with when I see kids do it. But I also understand that, that's not a world I live in. I mean,
right.
I'm not black, so
yeah.
I don't know.
As we move through with this segment, as it's brought to you by Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center. We'd like to thank Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center, who are located at 2700 Southwest 34th Street, where they offer skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapy. Any questions on their handling of COVID-19 and what their expectations are as they move into the month of June, they absolutely encourage you to give them a call to get those questions answered at 352-854-6262. That's 854-6262. And of course, Penn Flooring, family owned and operated. They've been serving Marion County for well over 30 years, and every bit of their success has always been to their unrivaled customer service, where they offer, as a full service flooring company, where they offer residential and commercial fields, finding the best solution for your flooring needs, where you can find them at 1201 Southwest 17th Street in Ocala, 352-351-3420. That's 351-3420, as they provided the floor for right here at WOCA, as they are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. As we made our way through the weekend, partner, as we get to now June, as I watched a little bit of some stuff there with Fox Sports from Friday, I think it doesn't look good at all. As we've been talking a little bit about with baseball, it's not looking that they're going to come to anything. I think. If anything, it's when do you think the actual, we talked about last week, maybe a big nail in a coffin, but it's still like a chance that they could throw something out that would change the dynamic of the conversation to see an agreement come where they can maybe get baseball started. But as we've got now to June 1st, it's almost ready to say specifically that it probably won't happen for baseball 2020.
Yeah, it's got to happen this week.
Right.
Or it's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a sad state of affairs. I turned it on to ESPN. I'm like, I wonder what they're doing. And they were doing a Peloton race via Zoom. And I'm like, what? I'm like, all right, okay. I'm like, that's ESPN they're like, the heck with throwing on, some soccer match or Korean baseball. We're going full on Peloton Zoom meeting. I'm like, this is stupid. So that's where we're at, the state of affairs in sports.
That is right. That is where we are at.
Baseball's done. Baseball's not going to play. They're talking about like double headers, and I'm like, there's no way. The union hates double headers.
No, they do not like them at all.
So, they caved with the DH, knowing that would add more salary, but it's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah. As we look forward to, June 11th, as the beginning, which would be next weekend, not this one coming up, but the one thereafter, as
right.
Golf is going to be getting back to it, as they're going to be doing what they do to bring you something to have on Sunday afternoon while you take a nap, as they won't have...
That'll be fine.
Yeah,
and I also don't think the crowd makes a big difference in golf.
No, not really.
I think it'll, basketball, even hockey to a certain extent, because of the way they mic it.
Right.
You can hear the skate. It'll be weird because they play inside and it just echoes. I don't know if you've ever been in a gym where there's nobody else in there except the team playing, and it's like a coliseum like that.
Right.
It's a weird sound.
Right.
Because everything echoes. So I know the travel team I played, I coached last year, we had that problem. I told them, I said, I just need you to shoot and listen. I said it's going to be really confusing for a couple of minutes. So,
Yeah, that's true, and I think it's funny too because it's the times we've done that. Even like you said, for the few minutes that they begin the game, it's like when a shot goes up, everything gets really, really quiet because even the ball players are like, oh, shot goes up. They're looking to get their position underneath the basket and box out, so everything is quiet and it's odd, but it's like you said.
They ended up playing music in the background, and that helped. Because I was like, man, this is terrible. Because the other coach and I in pregame were like, man, this is brutal.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, we can play some music. And we're like, play some music. Let's go. So.
It's interesting. It's interesting. Now, as that's moving forward, obviously, I think a few people that I've talked to who aren't really fans of the NFL are really kind of excited because it's something that is some normal return to sports because by the time their season gets going outside of the preseason, when the regular season week 1 gets started, it'll just be like, all right, yeah, because they're still talking about having fans in the stands and all that interesting stuff. Now, what's interesting, though, is when football starts.
College football's first.
Right.
College football will come first.
Yes.
So it'll be curious as to how they handle it. I'm sure everybody will be watching that. But the hope is that maybe the Stanley Cup Finals or the NBA Finals can be played in front of stands and these people in their own court. And again, I think that helps. I think that helps the country because it gives them something to watch. And, and something to root together for when a city they can all agree that they love their local team.
Yeah.
That can help. It can help a lot.
That's a good point, partner. That's a huge point because at the end of the day, there really hasn't been that distraction to, I guess, add less fuel to a fire that would stand for that because there is some common ground when it comes, as some people don't want to go into that or admit to that, but at the end of the day, like you said, it doesn't matter what color skin you are. If you grew up in the same area, you're probably going to root for the same ball club and have that same common ground. And when you have that distraction overall, that kind of de-escalates sometimes those heavier topics and conversations. But it will be interesting. And I was going to ask you, in the idea, too, with baseball, it needs to happen this week because even the idea of having the season go through, it's even tough, too, when you think about basketball trying to compete with college football and then the NFL as when they're going to get things started and where that comes through. NHL, the same, but even baseball would have a really hard time, I think, having to compete with all of that going on at the same time. That's one of the big topics that was brought up is just like what happens in the fall when sports does come back? What will people be watching and what gets thrown to the wayside, so to speak? And college football and professional football, I think, is up there. And then if you have the NBA playoffs at that point, yes, those are going to get watched. But a regular back end of the season of baseball at this point probably wouldn't bring in much viewership.
Well, that's an issue baseball's always had.
Yeah.
Right, is once October hits, it's the World Series, so more people are vested. But it's a regional sport, right? If their team's not in the playoffs, they don't watch.
Exactly.
Again, there is no baseball season this year. It's nothing to worry about.
Right. As we move on, partner, as I know you're on your way to work, Life South Community Blood Centers, talking about getting out there, giving the gift of life, and donating blood. Any news on where we would see the Bloodmobile today, and with how the weekend went, with everything going on, where are we at with the blood supply, my friend?
Yeah, we're doing okay. We've had a lot of people come out because we're doing antibody testing for COVID-19. So
Yep.
If you want to know whether or not you've been exposed to it and have the antibodies, come by, donate blood, give of life. We're right there at the corner, Silver Springs Boulevard, right across the street from the Cascades. Been there for a very, very long time, and thankfully nobody looted us. That would be weird. I don't know, it wouldn't get much. So, but again, just get out there, get the gift of life, and donate blood. And today our Bloodmobile is going to be out at Bellevue, so right there at the Walgreens. So come by and see us and save a life.
That's right. As we mentioned, as we got this about a week ago, is the mention of Life South Community Blood Centers. A little letter there, as it mentions too, plasma donated from recovered COVID-19 patients or those who had the virus but were asymptomatic can be a critical tool to help those patients severely affected by the virus. As Life South has been testing potential convalescent plasma donors for COVID-19 antibodies since April, by the way, and hopes by testing all blood donors, more donors will be willing to donate. And since this is the first convalescent donation in April, the Life South has collected plasma from donors across the footprint in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, as these units have been transfused to critically ill patients in local hospitals served by the community blood centers. So there you go, folks. If you want to get out there, give the gift of life.
Thank you for reading our press release.
And donate blood. As my friend, as we move on from the weekend, a new month, June, I wish you all the best today. As we'll see how the week will go. It is a little fascinating to see where we begin things from a Monday and where we end up on a Friday. So we'll see how the week goes, my friend. And we look forward to talking to you tomorrow. And get safe where you're going today, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Be good, man.
You got it, buddy. As that's Galen Life South Community Blood Centers, as we give a shout out to Palm Garden Health and Rehabilitation Center, located at 2700 Southwest 34th Street. They offer skilled nursing, physical, occupational, speech therapy. Any questions on their handling of COVID-19, give them a call, 854-6262. And of course, Penn Flooring. Our friends, Penn Flooring, family owned and operated. That's right, serving this great county for over 30 plus years. Every bit of their success is to that unrivaled customer service. Full service flooring company dedicated to finding the best solution for your flooring needs. 351-3420. 351-3420. As we've come now towards the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour, stay tuned. More good show for you. AM Ocala Live. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.